In this video, we review the price of Bitcoin in terms of technical analysis, and we do a prediction on where the price might go in the next 1 to 3 months. We analyze the total market cap of cryptocurrency. I compare previous bear markets with Bitcoin. We also have a look at sentiment analysis, and we compare it to and correlate it with the stock market. So what happens, let's say stock market has a massive correction. What happens in the price of Bitcoin? We have a look at that as well today. Hello everyone, it's Sajad. I hope you're doing good. So hopefully a lot of you will have caught my last update on the price of Bitcoin. Now this is not a log chart. This is just a standard chart of Bitcoin. What we're looking at here is this recent move. Are we gonna have a big move down back towards the 30,000, sub 30,000 region? That's what I discussed in my last video, and that's still what I think could happen. And if it does happen, it's potentially going to last 2-3 months, but then after that, we should get a massive rally if that does happen. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a move back down, potentially into 30 to 40,000 region, possibly lower, and then a massive move up, probably March, April next year, and then for the rest of the year. That's going to be a massive bull market. But I'm also going to have a look at what altcoins do when Bitcoin's in a little bit of a correction as well. So we'll discuss that here. Now, first of all, I just want to have a look at this on a smaller time frame before we discuss other things like sentiment. So let's just drop down to a 4-hourly chart here. So first of all, just looking at this possible correction, or is this the beginning of a massive move down? What I'm interested in is kind of a fib extension here to see how far we've moved so far. And so far we've moved the level 1.236. So, I mean, there's an argument that we're still in a smaller correction and we're about to move up again. It's possible. We may have had 5 waves up here. So what's really important now is that this level kind of holds, the 53,337 level. If we start exploring this level again, then there's a chance things could move down rapidly, just because it's an important support level now and because of structure as well. So if, for example, we're saying from the lows in September, if we're saying that this is the beginning of a brand new move up and this is just a bit of correction sideways, then we should expect downward trend line here to break out to the upside. And Bitcoin will carry all of the other coins with it. We'll have a look at Bitcoin dominance in just a moment as well, but that's what I'm looking at. However, if we start getting around this level, things could get bad very, very quickly for Bitcoin. And the reason for that is the overall structure. Are we actually at the end of a completed move here? Now, the reason I don't believe this is a significant high, I'm going to show you right now if we look back at the Bitcoin chart. So let's just go back onto a daily chart. So I'm going to just switch now to a logarithmic chart so it's easier to kind of demonstrate this and it's easier to analyze as well. Now, this was the move back in 2017. What Bitcoin tends to do when it has a significant top, if you look back over the last kind of decade of price action, is when it has a significant top, I've already marked it here when I was analyzing this before, it has a kind of V-shaped top. So let me just remove that, a quick run up in price and then a massive correction back down. So V-shaped in nature. When it's a significant top and then we're in for a big correction, it's never usually a sideways kind of correction. And we saw that in 2017 here. A very, very quick, sharp sell-off. Like that initial sell-off that we saw in terms of kind of percentage, how far did we move here? So in only kind of a month or just over a month, 70% correction. So that was from kind of end of December, beginning of February, 70%. That's how fast price moved down. And we're not really seeing that here at this top. So you could have argued potentially, the April top looked more like we were in for a significant correction rather than how price action is right now. So I hope that makes sense. What I was more expecting was if this was going to be a significant top for Bitcoin, that we just go up in an increasing kind of slope here and then we suddenly drop down. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't think that's happened yet. I think that's still yet to come. The question is, are we beginning that now? Are we beginning that journey now? Or are we is this all kind of sideways for the next couple of months? And the reason I think it's more sideways and down is because of the stock market as well. Now let's have a look at that. But just before that, what's the sentiment right now? The sentiment is, well, there's a lot of fear in the market here right now. So the fear level is 32. Last month it was 73. Now, what I'm looking for, again, for a significant top is, not long ago, we actually had a new high in Bitcoin. But what I'm looking for is greed levels to be off the scale, off the chart. We're not seeing that. Doesn't feel anything like 2017. Again, this is in my opinion. Remember with these videos, do your own research, of course, manage good risk management and stuff like that. But you have to take these things into account. So that's one thing I would say. It doesn't feel like we've achieved that, even though I know a lot of new kind of coins, NFTs, skyrocketing this year. It still doesn't feel that way. So it's important to take this into account as well if we get a correction. Now, it could be a good buying opportunity if things do move back down, of course, but just one thing to be aware of. The other thing that's interesting is if you have a look at the total market cap here, and this actually includes Bitcoin. So this includes Bitcoin right now. I've gone right back to have a look through this as well, because I'm interested to know when there are periods of, when there are kind of massive corrections, how big are the corrections? And you can see here, again, this goes all the way back, again, another kind of decade, all the way back to 2014. I've got the chart here. When there were significant corrections, they were big, 75 to 80%. And then on the run up, the corrections tended to be small, maximum about 40% or so. Now, we had that big correction after 2017, which was 87%. Then another big correction between 2019 and then the March lows in 2020, 72%. Then on the way up again, let me just zoom in so you can see this closer. So far, there's been a big correction already this year, 55%, then a smaller 28%, and now we're currently in a correction. But this is what makes me think if this is the run up, it could be just a short correction again, where we possibly in Bitcoin just move to the kind of 40,000 level and then we may move up from there. However, it's going to be sideways and down for now. That's what makes me think this is what's going on. This correction so far is kind of shallow for Bitcoin, even in a sharp run up. And the other thing with regards to the Bitcoin dominance, this is interesting because the other thing we've noticed in the past with Bitcoin is there tends to be a Bitcoin kind of season and then an alt season. So all of the other coins that are not Bitcoin, basically, they rally. And I've got here the chart of Cardano over the chart of Bitcoin in terms of Bitcoin dominance. Now, what is that? Just in case you're not sure, it's how much of the market is dominated by Bitcoin. And you can see right now we are at historically lowish levels. The last time this was really high was January 2021. So earlier this year, where we were almost at 70%, extremely high. Now let's look back. This is on a daily chart. Let's look back. What I'm interested in is what happened in 2017 and does that give us any clues? What's very interesting here is Bitcoin at 8th December, it was at a peak again at 70 and then it went all the way down to the 35 level. But what's interesting is if you look at Cardano here, it only really started pumping from here, from 28th December, when Bitcoin dominance was already way down to 40. So between 40 and 35, so Bitcoin dominance reduced a little bit. That's when a lot of these altcoins went through the roof in terms of their own prices. That's when things really started to move. And you're not really seeing that with the older altcoins. I'm going to do a separate video on that. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the like button if you're enjoying the videos. I'm going to be analyzing Bitcoin Cash, XRP. I'm going to be looking at Cardano as well in a lot more detail. All the old school coins that still have a big market cap, that were supposed to have amazing use cases, but are they really going to go through the roof? Is XRP really going to go to $10, $30 or beyond? Or is that just not going to happen anymore? Should we be concentrating on a lot of the newer exchanges, the newer exchange coins that we've seen, things like Decentraland, Sandbox? Is that what we should be concentrating on to get that 10x multiple? Again, I'll discuss that in a separate video, but some very interesting analysis I have on that as well. So where are we right now? So we've talked about 2017. Where are we going to present day? Well, present day, we are at that level around 40. So really, for the altcoins to take off, for everything else to take off, what should happen is Bitcoin dominance stays sideways for a while and then goes down to the 30 to 35 level. And that's where potentially, even Cardano, even if it's in a sideways correction, it can still move up to $3 to $5, which is possible. I don't think it's going to go to the moon. I don't think it's going to go any further than that. That's my own opinion. I just don't think they've done enough personally compared to some of the other new kind of concepts that we've seen this year that are already kind of in use. These new exchanges now that people are investing into, the coins you can invest into right now where you get paid interest, etc. Again, I'll discuss that in another video as well. But that's what I think, that's what we're looking for basically. Now, when will this happen? That's the question. And if you actually look at the SPX as compared to Bitcoin, that's very interesting. So we've seen a correction in the S&P 500, and I'll do an update on that soon as well, because I think there's a very, very good argument now to say we have a top in place, not forever, but again, for the next few months, we might be sideways and down in the S&P 500. Why does that matter for Bitcoin? Well, this is a weekly chart. This is the correlation coefficient between the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. Now look at this. Every time there's a correction in the S&P 500, generally Bitcoin and the S&P are correlated. Every time there's a correction, you see here, they're generally correlated. The only time there was a negative correlation was earlier this year when S&P was still going up and Bitcoin was taking a little bit of a dump. And that was the only time. But when the S&P is correcting, Bitcoin nearly always seems to correct. And that's important because if the S&P is going to come down, like I mentioned in my last video, if we've broken the trend channel now, if we do a significant correction right now, again, the narrative's all there, obviously. As I discussed in the last video, you've got everything happening with the pandemic. And then obviously you've got Jerome Powell and he needs to work his magic and he needs to start doing loads and loads of new things, mainly printing money. Obviously, the perception is that's really good for cryptocurrency. If that all happens again, if that story repeats itself, that's going to be great. But that might happen after a correction. So after a significant correction, Fed gets very, very worried. So let's say the S&P did correct down. Fed gets very, very worried. So Bitcoin corrects, S&P corrects, everything corrects. They suddenly start pumping currency all over the place. Yes, S&P picks up again, but more importantly, crypto will go through the roof. That seems to fit better in my opinion. Again, comment below, let me know what you think about this. But that's what I'm looking for as I move. I think at the moment, crypto is looking very, very shaky when you look in particular at Bitcoin. Now, is it possible Bitcoin is going to retrace a little bit and the altcoins will suddenly shoot off in the next 2 to 3 weeks and then we're just done and that's a top in cryptocurrency? It doesn't feel like that. It feels more like sideways and down, and then maybe January, February time, who knows the exact time, we'll start getting a breakout, and I'll obviously update everybody about this. That might be when we get the next push up. But again, let's watch and see what happens. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next one.